In early May of this year, we had a worship service in which we celebrated Beltane, which is the season in the pagan calendar focused on the planting of seeds and fertility and growth. At that service, we asked you to write on cards the kind of seeds, literal and figurative, that you were planting and nurturing in that season. The cards you wrote said things like tomatoes and lettuce and peppers, as well as kindness and courage. Some mentioned that they were hoping to nurture a new healthy habit, and several mentioned relationships with partners, siblings, parents, and children. Can you remember, if you were here, what you wrote on your card? Anyone? Maybe? What is it that you were hoping to grow and nurture this past spring? In my reflection on that May morning, I said this: when I think of planting seeds and new growth, my thoughts, probably not surprisingly, go to the seeds we might plant to grow this congregation and the faith we share. Growth often means numbers. When you talk about church growth, the number of people who come here, and that's part of my hope. I do hope that we grow in numbers and reach more people in the community with this religious community that will love them through their hard times and support and challenge and accompany them on their search for truth and meaning. But growth in numbers is not the only kind of growth I hope for. I also hope to be planting seeds in myself and others that will grow into spiritual maturity. And I also hope for this congregation to grow in commitment. This includes a commitment to the church as an institution, or to our mission, or to our faith as a whole, as a movement for good in the world. So that was about 5 months ago. And I'm wondering now, in this new season of harvest, whether the things you planted last spring have borne fruit. How did those gardens turn out? Have you seen the results of planting patience or kindness or courage? Are those relationships you hope to nurture doing well? As far as my hopes for growth for this congregation, we have seen some numerical growth. In this year, 2024, we've added 15 people to our congregation as official members. A lot of visitors come through our doors, and many of them come back multiple times. And much of this is due to our hardworking and growing outreach team. We've planted seeds of spiritual growth. Our religious exploration program for children and youth is thriving. For adults, we've offered many, many classes, such as how to be a better ally, some support for dealing with climate grief, reading groups on a variety of books, and a spiritual practice course, as well as our small groups called covenant groups. The last kind of growth that I mentioned in May was a growth in commitment. And one of the ways that I measure this commitment is whether there are volunteers to do the things that the congregation wants to do. This was on my mind at that time because we were and still are recovering from the pandemic. Coming out of the pandemic, volunteers were few and far between because I think people were just worn out. And while we're not quite back at pre-pandemic levels, there are still volunteer spots that go unfilled. I have hope. I've seen folks who were active pre-pandemic return, and some newer folks have jumped in too. You may remember a couple of weeks ago, we invited some new members into our congregation, and we asked them to commit. The roots of that word mean together, which is calm, and the mit means put. We asked these new members to throw in their lot with us to the best of their ability and to share their time, talent, and treasure. We asked them, as the reading said, to give all of themselves. And at this time of year, the pledge drive beginning, everyone is asked to commit to our mission, to put their energy and their love, and yes, their money, in the pot so that we can do the things that we list in our mission and vision and move the world closer to it, to a vision of a congregation and a world that embody justice, equity, and love. Now, I'm aware that there's been a lot of money talk today. And if you are sensitive in that area, I hope that you're just taking deep breaths. It's okay. I want you to hear this. When you're asked to give money to this church or to this faith, you're asked to consider carefully what you can joyfully give. Guilt is not a part of the equation, nor is shame. We mean it when we say, whether your gift is big bucks or pennies, it all matters. This season of harvest and talking about the pledge drive is a bit of a mix because really our pledges are seeds and our harvest comes later. But as articulated in our new Unitarian Universalist bylaws, there are things that we as a movement say we want to grow. Justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. And these are the things we value, the qualities we want to see grow in the world, and they're all watered and nurtured and given life by our love for humanity, ourselves, and this earth. Now, there are other organizations in the world that hold some of these same values. You can contribute to making the world a more just and equitable place by giving your time or money to a nonprofit that does good work. You could learn more in classes or by reading, but there are not that many places in the world where these values are held high that are also a laboratory to live them out. Here in our community, we offer opportunities to practice all these values in a supportive environment. We know that none of us is perfect and will make mistakes, and we're all learning. But here, after a mistake, we are expected to reflect and learn from it and try to do better next time and begin again in love. Our faith and our congregation are a place to gather tools and to practice. Here in this building and here within each of us, so that we can make the world better out there. Back in May, I ended my remarks with a list of reasons why I have given my life to our faith, why our faith and our church matter. And here's what I said, and I think it's still all true. I wrote, because I believe our faith can be like white blood cells in the body of this nation, helping fight off the infection of fascism. I wrote, because I believe we offer an antidote to late-stage capitalism in our offer of community care. We desperately need one another to survive. And I mean that in all the ways you might hear it. We need one another to survive. We need each other to survive. I need you to survive. I need you to survive. And because we offer connections here that are the cure for the epidemic of loneliness in our country. And most of all, because I know that our faith saves lives. I want to close with the beautiful words of poet Adrienne Rich. They come to me when I think about how much we matter to this world and how I want to live. She wrote, "My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely and with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world." Can you cast your lot in with this congregation to help reconstitute the world? This hurting and beautiful world needs us. Are you in?